Deputy Speaker, I'm grateful to you for the chance to make my maiden speech, particularly during a debate of such high quality. My congratulations to the members who've made their major speeches today, but I'm particularly pleased to follow my Hampshire colleague, the member for Eastleigh, thanks to whom I made quite a lot of money at Ladbrokes. The wonder of modern technology and, of course, the labours of our friends from Hansard mean that I've read, listened and watched a number of speeches over the last few days and been impressed by many. Thoughtful speeches from my friends, my right honourable and honourable friend, the member for Beaconsfield and North East Somerset on the opening night, for instance, illustrated the high quality of the thinking in this chamber, and I'm pleased to be able to participate. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm relieved that it's you in the chair for my speech, for it's a tradition in a maiden speech for a member to panegyrise their constituency, but it was 20 years ago that the jewel, the glowing green emerald that is North West Hampshire, slipped through the otherwise deft fingers of the Speaker when he was the very young candidate for the candidacy there and was the runner-up to my predecessor. He will know from that experience that there can be few slices of England as fair as North West Hampshire, with the world's most important chalk stream, the River Test, rising and gurgling through it, Watership Down at its very heart, and 60 largely thatched villages and hamlets dotted amongst its verdant hills. It is no surprise that much of the constituency is designated an area of outstanding natural beauty. In the north of the constituency lies the industrious town of Tadley, hard up against the fence of the atomic weapons establishment in the constituency of my friend, the member for Newbury, with its famous treacle fair, which was held just this last Sunday. And to the south, the ancient market town of Andover, made modern in the 1960s by a deal with the GLC to become a London overspill town, greatly increasing the population and, I'm afraid to say, the number of Arsenal supporters. North West Hampshire is a hard-working place with very high employment levels underpinned by a thriving small business community. But it is not without its problems, and I have pledged to put my shoulder to the wheel to try and help, starting with schools, where performance is not universally brilliant. A successful future for the town will be built on the foundation of great schools, and our work must begin there. I look forward to working with my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, in her vital campaign to drive up standards and ambition. Like much of Hampshire, my constituency has strong links with the armed forces. My right honourable friend, the member for Tunbridge Wells, whom I congratulate on his appointment to the Cabinet, we were councillors together at Westminster City Council, may boast that his constituency is the ancient home of the Lieutenant Colonel, but I believe I may have a stronger claim. With Army headquarters sited just outside Andover and a plethora of bases and garrison towns in the area, many serving and retired services personnel have settled there, giving a military flavour to much of life in the constituency. I thank them for their service to our country. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, this House has not heard a maiden speech from North West Hampshire for over 50 years. The last one in 1964 was given by the late Sir David Mitchell, father of my right honourable friend, the member for Sutton Coldfield, who sadly died last year after a distinguished life of public service. He was succeeded in 1997 by my predecessor, Sir George Young, the bicycling baronet, who was an MP already, but whose Ealing and Acton constituency had been abolished. Like me, Sir John had been a local councillor in London with the young John Major, and then a member of the GLC before entering Parliament and embarking on a glittering 42-year-long career on these benches. He is, I am told, the only member to be hired, fired and rehired by 3 successive Prime Ministers. His time here is garlanded with many laurels, but it is at the constituency level that the true character of the man shone through. His work over the last 2 decades has impacted on thousands of constituents. At every door I knocked on during the campaign, his industry and care was remarked upon, and he has set the bar very high indeed. It sometimes felt as if North West Hampshire had had the Queen Mother as its MP. Such was the regard in which he was held. He didn't do it alone, of course, and his wife, Lady Aurelia Young, whose father, Oscar Neiman, sculpted the magnificent statue of Churchill, which stands in the members' lobby here, has been very much a part of the team. The constituency and the country owe them a great deal. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I have tried to absorb as much of this debate as possible over the last few days, and there have been many notable and interesting speeches, but there was one in particular that stuck in my mind. It was given by the Honourable Member for Bassetlaw on the opening night, and in it he said that the scandal of historical child abuse will be one of the defining issues of the next 5 years. He said it would haunt the Parliament, and I agree with him. During my many years in local and regional government in London, I've become increasingly alarmed at the social and cultural architecture in which our children live. I have tried to do my bit for them, children in the care system, in prison, in gangs, trafficked, mutilated, beaten, abused, and too often killed. There are many politicians who've made a greater impact than me, not least my honourable friend, the member for Crewe and Nantwich, and my right honourable friend, the now Secretary of State for Justice, whose experience and work in this area over the last 5 years have been exemplary. And I welcome the measures in the Education and Adoption Bill signalled in the gracious speech this week. But we have done our work in the face of profound and rapid social change in the way our children live. Their exposure and those who have care of them, them's exposure to sex, violence and commercialisation is changing the way they interact with each other and with adults. The Prime Minister, I sense, feels the same and has expressed alarm on a number of occasions. His very welcome Troubled Families programme, now expanded to over 500,000 families, gives a sense of the scale of the issue. Mr. Speaker, I also see from the Order paper that the adjournment debate called by the Honourable Member for Nottingham North today gives expression to a similar alarm in calling for the establishment of an institute for the study of sexual abuse of children. Mr. Deputy Speaker, there has been much talk in this Parliament of this Parliament being consumed by questions of fox hunting, Europe, human rights and the Union. In amongst those important debates, though, I am with the Honourable Member for Bassetlaw in believing that the horrific stories of child abuse from the past will dominate our public discourse. This House must respond by putting the future of our children, and in particular the care of our most disadvantaged and defenceless children, in front and centre of our considerations. Mr. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, the good people of North West Hampshire have sent me here as their champion, and I intend to strain every sinew in their interest for as long as they will have me. But during the time I am allowed in this House, I hope to be a champion for children too. It was Nelson Mandela who said there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. I'm sure you will agree with me, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that he was right.